Hello, viewers. You're welcome to Governance Index. I'm Ifeanyichukwu. Now, let me remind you of what we do here. This is where we discuss about governance matters, the obligations of the leaders to the people, as well as the people to the leaders. Now, there's been a legal tussle against governments, past and present governments of Anambra State, as regards the constitutional provision that says or that guarantees local government autonomy. Now, a suit was filed against them last year, and the man behind that suit is right here with me in the person of Dr. Ifeanyichukwu Okonkwo. Dr. Ifeanyichukwu Okonkwo, you are very welcome to Governance Insight.
It's my pleasure.
All right, I think this is our first encounter. It's quite a pleasure to have you here. But let's start with, take us through the content or the course of this back, because you initiated that suit last year in April 17. So could you give us a history or the motivation, what led to it and all that?
Thank you. The suit was not initiated last year. The second phase was initiated last year. The responsibility of citizens in a democracy is not only limited to voting. The responsibility extends to also making yourself available to make sure that the right things are done. In political parlance, you call it making a demand on the system. It was in 2006 that I went to a federal high court. The federal high court then situated in Enugu to ask for the protection of my right to participate in my community government. The sphere of that participation was that I presented myself that I wanted to be a councillor to represent my local ward in Nobi as a leader in my community to make sure that things are done well. But the government of Anambra State at that time did not provide the necessary material for my participation in my community government. So I went to Federal High Court. The reason of going to the Federal High Court was to articulate the African Charter of Human Rights. In that court, we contested the release I was seeking in the court. I wanted to find out why the provisions that guaranteed in Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, were not activated by the government of Anambra State. And that I asked the court to interpret the provisions whether the House of Assembly of Anambra State, as then was, could make laws that will give them some leverage on excluding people from participating in their community government, and whether the laws made by that government can be exercised by the chief executive and the governor, that he will not create the enabling environment for me to participate. So the government of Anambra State and the House of Assembly of Anambra State were defendants, and also brought in the Attorney General of the Federation, that they will cease to make preparation for financial support to the government. Hence, they are denying me my right. The Federal High Court, presided over by Honorable Justice Louis Alagua, took the objection on jurisdiction and the merit of the case. And when he delivered his judgment, I was successful in the judgment. And he awarded me damages for losing an opportunity to serve my local government of 5 million naira against the government of Anambra State. But he stopped short of making the order that the federal government will not remit the statutory allocation that is due to Idemili local government specifically, that order will be nebulous because we are not able to capture specific months and what the quantum of money was at that time. So I executed the monetary award of 5 million naira, was paid by the government of Anambra State, even though they tried to resist it at that time.
Under P2B?
No, it was under P2B and Ngige, because I had to go to court to get the money. So it took some time. Anambra State Government never appealed that judgment. They never appealed the judgment. And there were some injunctive orders. The declaration was that they have no power under the Constitution or any law made by government of Anambra State to exercise any pseudo power of caretaker or whatever name called to administer the local government. So those injunctive reliefs was made perpetual by the order of court. So with time, I was thinking that those in governance, starting from Dr. Christopher Ngige, Peter Obi, and Obiano, and that they will be repentant in following due process and honoring the Constitution. So one thing led to another. During the campaign of the government of Charles Soludo, it was a major platform that they will conduct local government elections. So I waited, and after his government took off, he forgot all about the promise. So I went back to court. The law allows me to use an existing judgment to enforce or go back to court to seek further release on the judgment I already have in my favor. And that is why I had to go to court, back to Federal High Court in January 2024, and file this present action and ask the court for some additional reliefs and to punish those who were exercising executive powers illegally, notwithstanding the injunctive orders of the court, which they never appealed against. And I served that process on the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation because they are parties. It was upon the serving that process on them that they made further inquiry and asked, because I'm the only Nigerian who went to Federal High Court and obtained such judgment. There's no other person. So the Federal High Court became a plank for the Tinubu government to now approach the Supreme Court. When they approached the Supreme Court, taking a leave from my judgment, which is a judgment of Federal High Court, people thought it was a child's play. It was because actually the Supreme Court of Nigeria had made pronouncements on the issue of whether we had 3 tiers of government or 4 tiers of government, and whether the federal government can exercise any superintending power to control the money going to the state. But in that judgment, the state attorney generals in the South met, and they decided to form a clique to fight the originating summons which the federal government went and filed in the Supreme Court. They filed a preliminary objection to the originating summons, which means that they are telling the Supreme Court that it has no power to exercise over the suit. And that was where they played into the hands of the judiciary, because if you understand the workings of the court, instead of accepting the body of attorney general, instead of accepting that caretaker committees are illegal and only coming to court to ask the court to vary the reliefs that they are seeking, they went whole hog to fight the suit, forgetting that the Supreme Court of Nigeria is also a policy court. Policy in the sense that they can go beyond what you have brought before that court. The only thing that can stop them is if you can show that is inequitable, or that there are instances which can help the court to change that pronouncement. So they never took serious that judgment. So when the judgment was given, it confirmed everything I have demanded at the Federal High Court. So the court in Oka, presided over by Muhammad J, now had to take the proceedings. Initially, the first time we came, the court on the first time hearing date, a government of Anambra State represented all the defendants. They filed a notice of preliminary objection to the action, my second action. Remember, I have a judgment already, which they have paid 5 million. So they filed an objection, and later on changed their mind, brought an application for extension of time. I opposed the application. I told the court is incongruous for you to say a court have no jurisdiction and you're coming back to beg that court to exercise any discretion in your favor. Well, the court this morning ruled in their favor, extended time. I will leave my gunpowder dry. So, but we took the originating summons and their preliminary objection this morning. We was argued in court, and the court now adjourned the judgment, Senate. The court will inform us when the judgment is ready. So I am positive I will win the case, but because they never appealed against the original judgment. How can you come in this later day to oppose the jurisdiction of a court that you have satisfied the judgment? The court have now sitting comfortably on the Supreme Court judgment that has confirmed everything I was seeking in court. So that judgment will become a land sweeper in this country.
All right, thank you for your opening remark. But in spite of this, I appreciate the fact that you filed the suit back then under P2B and won. You were paid 5 million naira, and also this second phase. But last year, the Supreme Court ruled, had a remarkable landmark judgment on the autonomy of local governments, and then the reaction from state governments were the conduction of local government elections, including that of Anambra State that was held in September. So don't you think that that election has overtaken whatever case you might have against the government?
My my suit is not whether Anambra State will conduct local government. I already passed that stage. My suit is to penalize the state for ignoring the 2006 judgment with order of perpetual injunction, which they never appealed against, and that they had continuously been in contempt of that judgment by appointing caretaker. So when the Supreme Court delivered its judgment, it directed them to stop the illegality, stop their sin, and conduct local government. So it has nothing to do with what I went to. I didn't go to court for them to conduct local government election.
But the election took place, and proper, legitimate local government chairman and councillors were elected, and they are now on seat. But how do you see the election conducted last year?
No, I don't think I have enough impetus to make a comment on the conduct. I wasn't in this state the day they conducted the election. I didn't participate in the election, not an observer. So, but what I'm saying is that my judgment is alive and well. I am not in court for the conduct. I am in court for the breach. Breach? Yes, which was committed by the government. And I'm asking the court to make a pronouncement that the breach was unconstitutional and they have no right, and also to give me some financial compensation for bringing this suit that has now become a watershed in Nigerian political constitutional development.
Now, do you see a win in this case, your win, to be a personal achievement or a success for the whole Anambra State and by extension in Nigeria?
So I'm a Nigerian who understands how to use the court system. I'm a citizen. I know how to make demand on the system. So it is not a personal achievement, but it was part of the length, breadth, and depth of deepening democratic structure in the country.
All right. You were a former governorship candidate. So can you give us an insight into that? Like what happened and what under what party? And then Anambra State is about to have another election, governorship election. So how do you think the present government has performed?
The reason why I don't discuss democracy anymore in this country is that a democracy that is restricted. Remember, there's zoning being practiced here. What type of democratic climate is that when you limit men with knowledge and vision from putting themselves forward to help to better the society? So all those participations, you have to participate within the spectrum, within the window. The people have put encumbrances. They said they want zoning. Soludo became governor because of zoning. He's not the prefect of the class. But so what, I am now a very senior citizen. I have experience. I participate in democracy within the limits of my intellectual capacity that demands in the system requires a highly knowledgeable and cerebral person, and you must have courage. So within that sphere, I am very comfortable. I go to court, make demands, and make sure that the people who are saddled with leadership act constitutionally and within the law.
Now, for the sake of those who are watching us, what do you think constitutes, a good type of democracy in Nigeria? You just talked about zoning, but zoning is recognized not just at the state level, even at the national level. Zoning is also practiced. But what do you consider the ideal kind of democracy?
Ideal kind of democracy is where the citizens, first of all, as the primary constituency, are educated. They have to be knowledgeable. You cannot be a citizen and participate in democracy if you are an illiterate. You can't. Democracy is embedded in rule of law. It's like when you go to a meeting, you don't know the rules. How do you participate? Democracy requires crusaders. Democracy requires those who will say no, those who will go to court, those who will participate in the branches of government. The legislative arm, those who will be in the judiciary that will know their job, and they will be able to select the best minds and have opportunity to sit in judgment. So all these are the limitations of democracy. Democracy requires men and women that will crusade. It requires those who, if you have money, it's not to go and make donation. You engage the system. You encourage those who will make sure that they will bring equilibrium in participation. Those who will agitate for rights, make sure that civil rights are maintained, make sure that when government is not doing the right thing, that you come in to help. Right now, the greatest instrument of democratic process in Nigeria is that you must belong to a political party. Where are the parties? Party participation in politics, you have the bureaucrats, you have the people that we call the people who will come and mobilize people. Usually, those people are the political careerists. They have the credential, the integrity, and they can mobilize funding for election. And they crusade for issues. Democracy does not require you only when you're running for governor. But I went to court a couple of months ago against the governor of Anambra State when he decided to make money from the people, asking them that a legislation that is a national legislation, the Land Use Act, about property rights, that you now have to come and pay them money to register, which was wrong. I went to court. It's part of democracy. You require citizens that are cerebral, knowledgeable, not necessarily that you have to have a PhD, but you must be convinced in what you're doing, and you must be ready to take the pain of fighting for what belongs to the civil community, that they get their rights. So you see the government here is spending money, there's no accounts, and a governor will stand up and tell you that he has not borrowed money. He's visionless. so because he's not growing the economy. So, but what I'm saying is that in this political dispensation, I'm advising my constituency, which is the Igbos, don't put yourself in a box. We don't want to be part of the political system that will be punished after voting. Stay and vote within the mainstream politics. Let us go in there and struggle for power within the two big parties. The last time we voted for one of the small parties, the consequences were there, and there was no protection. Nobody has gone to court. So I advise people that this time around, we must try as much as possible not to isolate ourselves by playing the type of politics that will always exclude us in the national platform. That's my only advice.
Right, what a nice conversation. Dr. Ifeanyichukwu Okonkwo, former governorship candidate. All right, thank you for addressing this conversation.
It's my pleasure.
Next time.
My pleasure.
All right, that's it on Governance Insight. If you like this video, do not hesitate to hit the like button, share your videos, make your comments, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exciting topics. I am Tochukwu Okonkwo. See you next time. Bye-bye.